And welcome to another edition of Back Porch Sessions Live. My name is Curt Mercadante. I am your host. We're going to wait here for a minute. I'll keep talking, don't worry. As people join us, hopefully you can hear me. If you can't hear me, use the comments. In fact, I want you to get used to using the comments right now because I want to hear, listen, you know the drill if you've been here before. Share your city, your state, your name, your town, your country, your continent, where in the world you're joining us from. Don't just be a lurker. And very importantly, share one thing you are grateful for today. As you know, every morning that we do this, we like to start a chain of gratitude. There's enough negativity. There's enough fear porn in the world. So please share one thing you're grateful for today. Here in the United States, it is Independence Day weekend. So if you do join us, thank you for spending time with me instead of your family and enjoying yourself. Hoping you're unplugging today. Wherever in the world you're joining us from, though, welcome. We usually get people from around the world. And I'll check here as people join us. Brian from Chicago. How you doing, Brian? Welcome. Brian, what's one thing you're grateful for today? We are also live today in our Facebook group. I'll throw a link in the comments here a little later, but if you want to learn how to build your freedom business and join with others who are looking to do the same thing, come over to Facebook, join the Freedom Business Blueprint Facebook group. We are growing fast. So if you're joining us from over there, welcome. If you're joining us on YouTube, welcome. If you're joining us on LinkedIn, welcome. We come to you every Saturday. From here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona, you see the Red Rocks behind me to share some time with you. It's one of the favorite parts of my week. So if you are joining us, name, city, state, town, at least one thing you are grateful for today, and where in the world you're joining us from. Thank you so much. SOS Jackson from Yorktown, Virginia, welcome. Brian is grateful for freedom. Yes, freedom is my number one value. Freedom, fun, family. Adam Shelton joining us from Central Arkansas. Grateful for coffee in my backyard garden today. Welcome, Adam. Great way to unwind and disconnect from technology. Absolutely. As you see, we're here in nature. Can't wait to go out. I'm actually going to it's called Red, Fight, and Blue Independence Day celebration later, and I'm going to give a speech on educational freedom and homeschooling. I'm excited for that today. Such a foundational freedom, educational freedom. And over the last year and a half, my goodness, we could use more free thinking, open minds, couldn't we? Enjoying a wet, cool day in New England. Grateful for a long weekend getting together with my children. Larry, thank you so much for joining us. You're here every Saturday. If I had an award, maybe I'll come up with some awards. You'd get it, Larry. So I really appreciate everyone joining us today. Again, we join you every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern from my back deck, actually, here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona. Now, some of you, I get comments sometimes, say, well, I thought you were in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, last year, in the midst of the world burning down and everything shut down and people trying to burn down cities and whatever, we decided to uproot ourselves. We sold our home, almost all of our possessions, and we took our 4 kids on the road. We've been in the beaches, we've been in the mountains, everywhere in between. We've settled here in Sedona for a while. We love Sedona. As you can see behind me, it's a beautiful place. So this is where we are right now. So thank you for joining us. Probably between mid-July and mid-August, you may see some different backgrounds because we're going to be traveling in Colorado, up in Lake Powell, the Midwest. So I'll join you from there, internet permitting. And one more time, and I give these shout outs as we go. As you join us, don't just be a lurker. Name, city, state, town, where in the world you're joining us from, and at least one thing you are grateful for today. And we're going to hop right in because this week, working with my clients, now by way of introduction, of course, my name is Curt Mercadante. I help individuals as well as businesses and teams become more purposeful, more productive, and more prosperous. And a big part of that is defining, like, what do you want your life to be like? What do you want your weeks to feel like every single day? I don't just talk about, like, what do you want it to look like on paper? What do you want it to feel like? And that is so very important because it's so easy to be down in the forest, chopping down trees, looking at trees without having a broader view of the forest. So what do you want your weeks to look like? And this has come up a few times this past week working with clients. who were stuck, right? They were stuck with clients that were overwhelming them. Some of their clients had poor planning on their part now constituted an emergency on the part of my clients. And so they were stuck. They were going to have to work all weekend. And some really looking at building their freedom business, but kept getting these clients that didn't fit with how they wanted their weeks to look. And I asked them, I said, have you defined how you want your week to look? And in many cases, when they looked at their week, when they scheduled their week, they would put work appointments, work meetings, work calls in stone. But you know what they wouldn't put in stone? Anything having to do with self-care and relationships. Friends, your relationships and self-care are as important, if not more important. We're going to talk about alignment in a moment, as anything you do for work. Now that you may say, well, that's easy for you to say. I have to work because I got to earn money and I got to do this. Listen, I've been there. 3.5 years ago, I shut down my 7-figure agency because I was 60 pounds overweight, having anxiety attacks. I was not being a good husband. I was not being a great father. I was being an okay husband, okay father, but I wasn't being an epic dad and an epic husband. And I realized that those relationships are important. I realized that my self-care was important because guess what? I'm no good to my family if I'm dead. You're no good to your family if you're dead. You're no good to your clients if you're dead. So the key is alignment, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But when you schedule your week, when you look at how you want your weeks to feel, you can't just look at the work side of it. You've got to define what you want your life to feel like each and every day. Reverse engineer from there. When we make these decisions, career, what type of business I want to build, there's so many choices, right? And here in America, oh my gosh, we love choices. We love the big box stores and we love Costco. And that's all wonderful. I'm a free market guy. But choice can be paralyzing as well. Something called decision fatigue. Back in the day, when I ran my agency, we used to do a lot of email campaigns, right? And there was a science to how many choices, how many buttons you would put on an email, right? You'd put 1, people would click the button. You'd put 2, people would choose and click a button. You start putting 3 or 4 buttons, people wouldn't choose any button, right? It's the paradox of choice. Too many choices paralyzes us. So if you haven't defined how you want your weeks and your days to feel, and you have all these career decisions and business decisions and other decisions, it's hard to choose. So make it easy on yourself. Define how you want your weeks and your days to feel. And a lot of those choices will just disappear by attrition. For instance, I'm unemployable. I could not work for someone else. Why? Because there's no way in hell I'm going to get up and put on a suit and go to an office. I don't want my weeks and my days to feel that way. Come hell or high water, I am not going to do that. So you know what? That eliminates a whole bunch of career decisions for me. Guess what else I want? I don't want to work in the mornings usually. We're here on West Coast time, so I can do things early in the morning and go. I want to go hiking in the morning. I want to have time with my kids throughout the day. I don't want to work Friday afternoons. I don't want to work Monday mornings in terms of calls. I have a process that I do. Now you may say, oh, that must be nice, because I define my day, define my week. And guess what? You can too. The wonderful, beautiful thing about life is that you can actually create it. But first you got to define the type of life that you want. You reverse engineer it and then you do it. But just sitting around saying, well, that's easy for you, I can't do it. Guess what? I guarantee you can't do it if that's your attitude. I guarantee you can't define your life and live it if you don't admit first that you can do that, if you don't give yourself permission to do that. We live in a permission-based society. It starts when we're young. Permission to go take a piss, teacher. We always feel like we have to ask permission, and that goes on into adulthood. Guess what? You don't have to ask for permission. You are a sovereign, free human being, and you can live the life that you want. You don't have to live a life according to what was laid out by your parents when you were 10 or 15 years old. You can create your life, but first you have to define the type of life you want to live. You have to define how you want to feel each and every week, each and every day. And guess what? You can do that. Yes, Lashana, give yourself permission. You don't need permission from anyone else. And I'm saying this as someone who for years thought you needed permission. We have kindergartens canceling theater programs because they're not career and college ready enough. When we're young, It's all about getting into the best. I mean, we have kindergartens having interviews because you got to get into the best kindergarten. Then you got to get in the best middle school and elementary school, whatever it is, right? We're going to be in 3,000 extracurricular activities because that's going to get in the better school, the better college. And you got to go to college and major in finance because that's the way it is. And you got to live in this suburb with this car. And I will tell you, over the last several years, I've met hundreds of people. I have coached people who live that life and they hit a wall. They get to be 40, 45, and they're like, why am I living this life? It's not a life I actually want to live. And so we start defining, what does that mean? What is the life you want to live? How do you want your weeks to feel? It can be done. And if you sit there saying it can't be done, I got to ask permission. Guess what? You are absolutely right. So you can't let the how get in the way of the what. Define the what. Define how you want your weeks to be. And believe that you can do it. So before we move on to the next topic, I want to give a shout out to everyone. Adam says, great point. I actually always put my time off in stone. That's something my spouse had to help me practice for sure. Absolutely. Mark your relationship time and your self-care time in stone. Do not move it. If you want to go out hiking on a Friday afternoon, you put that in your calendar. Guess what? Your clients don't have to know that. If you're an entrepreneur, your clients don't have to know that. Live the life you want to live, but first you got to define it. First, you got to admit that you can define it. First, you have to admit that you don't need the permission to define it. You can live whatever hell life you want. And I know there's been a wave of authoritarianism over the last year and a half where people feel that they got to ask permission to leave their homes. Guess what? You don't. You don't. Realize that you are a sovereign, free human being. Start acting accordingly. Lashana, once we are self-aware, it can be done and even easier. You can do it. Keep striving for greatness. Isn't that awareness so important? Be aware of what you want. Be aware of who you are. Be aware of your individual, unique superpowers. You know, in this society, in Western society, we pay lip service to uniqueness. Be uniqueness, or be unique. Be your unique self. But guess what? Most of our society wants us to be on a moving walkway. Stare straight ahead. And if you veer off that line, they're going to call you out. And many of the same voices talking about uniqueness really want conformity. You know, we've homeschooled our kids for about 15 years. Our oldest is 15. We've homeschooled from the beginning. You know the number one question we get? What about socialization? What about the socialization, right? And I used to get defensive when people asked that. But now I realize that that word socialization, it was code word for things that didn't really matter, right? Things that didn't have to do with education or the freedom or the future of our children. But then I also realized socialization equals, in their minds, conformity. Socialization equals conformity. When they say, what about socialization? What about your kids not turning out like all the other kids? Because you see, our schooling system in this country and Western society is based on a Prussian model. It's based on the Industrial Revolution. It's based on churning out bots for big business. You can look it up. I'm not making this up. This isn't a conspiracy theory. And so when people ask about socialization, especially in light of what's happened the last year and a half, I say, no thanks. Conformity is a creativity killer. Conformity is a killer. Conformity is one of the greatest threats to humanity. You don't need to conform. You need to be yourself. You need to be your unique self. And many of the same people who talk about uniqueness really want conformity. So be your unique self. Define how you want to live. Define how you want your weeks and days to feel. Reverse engineer that and plan accordingly. Now, I want to give a shout out to everyone joining us here this morning. If you are joining us, don't just be a lurker. Jump in, share your name, your city, your state, your town, where in the world you're joining us from, and at least one thing. Lashana, what's one thing that you are grateful for this morning? Just one thing you're grateful for this morning. Thank you for those. And Larry joins us. Enjoying a wet, cool day in New England. Grateful for a long weekend, getting together with my children. That's awesome. I know you're grateful for that. Larry, I'm grateful that you join us every single morning. You know, I'm grateful for Adam, great wet day, wine, disconnect from technology. You know, I am grateful for, there was an incredible sunrise this morning over the mountain in the distance. It was incredible. There were some clouds there. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the ability to speak this afternoon on something I'm very passionate about, educational freedom. And on this Independence Day, I'm grateful for being able to be free. Now, I know a lot of our freedoms have been under attack over the last year and a half. You may agree, you may disagree. That's fine. But I'm grateful for that I have the ability to speak my mind and do so without without repercussions like is happening in some parts of the world right now. Awesome call out. Socializing can be achieved through many other avenues like churches, clubs, hobby groups, etc. If it fits what you want for your life. If it fits what you want for your life. Right? When someone says socialization, well, what type of socialization are you talking about? Are you talking about drugs, alcohol, skyrocketing suicide rates, especially during COVID, during the lockdowns? We see teenage suicide attempts going through the roof, but those have been rising for years. So which socialization are you talking about? Lashana, I'm grateful for having my daughter's 19th birthday today, viewing from Atlanta, Georgia. Well, Lashana, thank you so much for joining us, and happy birthday to your daughter. Grateful that I stumbled across this live. I'll be here more often. Awesome, Lashana. That is wonderful. Lashana, throw in, what are you building a business? What do you do? I don't see it here. I can't see as I'm doing this live, but tell us a little bit more about are you building a business? You work for someone else? Where do you want to head? And as you think about that, we're going to move on to our next topic, which is alignment. Now, I wrote a little book 2 years ago called 5 Pillars of the Freedom Lifestyle, Amazon bestseller. And I wrote that book not just to share my journey to freedom, but the first half of that book shares the stories of some incredible individuals who overcame some challenges to build freedom in their lives. You know, like Toph Evans was suicidal, turned it around and used gratitude to turn around his life and build a life of freedom. We talk about Don Wettrick, who's helping young children build lives of freedom. He is someone who pulled himself, he was a school teacher for over a quarter century, pulled himself out and is helping children be more innovative. We share a lot of those incredible stories. The second half has the 5 pillars. It's a roadmap, a blueprint for you to build a life of freedom and fulfillment. Now I apply those 5 pillars to help people build their freedom business. A freedom business is that business that enables you to provide your unique and fulfilling impact to the maximum number of clients you want to serve while still empowering your freedom lifestyle. Now those 5 pillars are superpowers, vision, alignment, outcomes, and flow. But let's focus on alignment. Because, oh my gosh, there's hashtags, there's all this work-life balance. I need more work-life balance. Oh, I wish I can have work-life balance. Curt, can you help me get work-life balance? And I always tell people, I've been saying this for years, take that term work-life balance, flush it down the toilet. Sorry, whoa, I hit my computer. Flush it down the toilet, shit can it, throw it out the window, burn it, do whatever you have to do, trash it, because work-life balance is mythical. It makes absolutely no sense. Why? Because there's not work in life. There's just life. And how you spend the time in your life is entirely up to you. Here's how people look at work-life balance. You know, I used to have, when I do workshops, I used to have a slide of someone going over like the Grand Canyon on a tightrope, right? And they were trying to balance not to fall off the tightrope and die. That's how so many people use work-life balance. Oh my gosh, I got to balance. Oh my gosh, I'm going to work and then I'm going to balance it with the rest of my life. And they're sweating. Does that sound fun to you? Does that sound free and fulfilling to you? Absolutely not. And people who look like at work-life balance, it's like a seesaw or a teeter-totter, right? I'm going to put everything into work over here and I'm going to ignore my relationships and self-care until it's all over. That's a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for hitting the wall. Some people look at balance as, okay, I got this project at work. I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to eat shit for 2 weeks. Literally, I'm not going to eat healthy. I'm not going to work out. I'm going to ignore my relationships for 2 weeks to go all in on work. And it'll all balance out at the end of 2 weeks. Maybe I'll eat a salad. I'll go for an extra walk. I'll come home early with my spouse, my partner, my kids. If that happens, and that's a big if, sometimes, many times, that 2 weeks turns into 4 months, turns into 6 months, turns into a year, turns into, hey, it'll all balance out when I'm 65 years old. Then I'll retire. Then we'll travel the world. Well, guess what? How many people over the last year and a half had that plan? And then COVID hits, lockdowns hit. You can't travel. If that's you, it's not COVID's fault. It's your fault for spending your life waiting because of the mythical balance. But also in my family, just in my family, extended family, heart attack, stroke, knee replacement. Oh, we're going to wait till 65 and then all of a sudden cancer. You retire and then you can't travel at all. You spent your life waiting instead of living because you were seeking that mythical balance. So the key, my friends, is not balance, it's alignment. It is alignment. There are 3 facets of your life, and they are all vital. Relationships, that's one facet. Self-care is another facet. And of course, work and career. And it's so easy for us to really define closely work and career, but then shoehorn in relationships and self-care. We're seeking balance, right? So we're going to put it all in work, and someday it's going to balance out because then we'll invest in ourselves if we're still alive and healthy enough to do so, if we haven't destroyed our relationships, if we haven't destroyed our self-care. So you got to align those 3 in a way that works for you. It's about aligning those 3. So I have a little activity for you. If you have a pen and a paper or an iPad or whatever, it's called the pizza pie activity. Talk about it in my book. You take that piece of paper and you draw a big circle in the middle of it. That's going to be your pizza pie. Now, your pie is going to have 3 slices, but don't draw the slices yet. There's going to be 1 slice for relationships, 1 slice for self-care, and 1 slice for work. But the size of each slice has to be in direct proportion to how you honestly spend your time each week with each slice, not just the time on the clock, but the mind share, the worry, the anxiety. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is if you're in the office or you're working 60 hours a week, but Saturday morning, you're at your kid's recital or soccer practice and you can't focus. You're not mentally present because you're worried about the Monday conference call. You're worried about what you didn't get done on Friday. You include that in the size of your slice. So it's not just the actual physical time. It's the mind share. It's the worry, the anxiety. So you draw those 3 slices. You got to be honest with yourself. So draw those 3 slices now. We're doing an alignment activity. I call it the pizza pie activity. Now you draw those 3 slices, you look at the pizza pie. This is how your life is now. Now what I'd like you to do is redraw the 3 slices right on top of that original pie, but this time draw the size of each slice according to how you want your life to live, according to an aligned life. Draw it right on top of that pizza pie. And when you draw that, look at the difference. Look how you want your life to live, a life of alignment, versus how you are living your life now. And then take that drawing and put it up on your refrigerator, put it on your iPad, put it on your computer, and use that as a barometer for an aligned life. At the beginning of this live stream, we talked about defining the life you want to live, defining an aligned life and reverse engineering it. Well, alignment is part of that. This pizza pie is part of that. This is the life you want to live. Use that as your barometer. Draw the line in the sand. Reverse engineer from there and start living your life in that way. Start living an aligned life. If you're just joining us, go back, rewind this and look at that pizza pie activity. It's a big part of defining an aligned life, not a balanced life. We've already talked about why balance is BS. An aligned life in which your relationships, your self-care, and your work are aligned. And by the way, my alignment's going to be different from your alignment, from her alignment, from his alignment. If you got 4 kids, alignment's going to be different than if you have no kids. If you're 20, it's going to be different than if you're 40. So draw that pizza pie, use it as a barometer, put it somewhere you can see it every day, and start living that aligned life. I want to give a shout out to everyone joining us. Absolutely, Adam. Work balance is a myth. There is only life. The key is alignment. Lashana, I am a therapist turned mindset and clarity strategist. I help ambitious people get out of their own way and start their dream business. Full-time entrepreneur as of 2 weeks ago. I pushed fear to the side and I feel so elated. Ready to rock. Lashana, that's wonderful. And by the way, Lashana and anyone else joining us today, If you need help building your freedom business, this September, my Freedom Business Blueprint Bootcamp, it is virtual, is launching to help you apply the 5 pillars to your business to build that business that enables you to provide your unique and fulfilling impact to the clients, the maximum number of clients you want to serve while still enabling and empowering your freedom lifestyle. Lashana, if it would be worth 20 minutes, anyone else, if it's worth 20 minutes to learn how I can help you build your freedom business, drop freedom in the comments or send me a message. By the way, in October, end of October, I'm also going to be in Orlando, Florida for my 2-day business trifecta workshop, branding, marketing, mindset, to help you put together a consistent branding and sales process that communicates the right message to the right clients to generate the right revenue. It's about building your business, getting in that revenue, building that prosperity, serving the people you want to serve. If you are interested in either of those boot camps, put bootcamp in the comments, put freedom in the comments like Lashana just did, or send me a message. We'll get on a call and we'll discuss it more. Adam says, oof, you got me on this one. Which one, Adam? Which one? Are you talking about the pizza pie activity? Lashana's right. Balance is a mindset. It's individuals. Yes. Alignment. Yes, yes. Absolutely. Thank you, Shauna. Freedom business. You know, so many of us start a business trying to get freedom, and yet we build a prison instead. And you can build that freedom business. So if you're an entrepreneur who's backed yourself into a corner, into a cage, and you feel like you've built a prison, guess what? You can unravel that and build a freedom business. I've done it. I've helped people do it. If you're someone who's in a 9-to-5 who wants to build that business, you can build that freedom business. So believe that. Lashana, all of it. Awesome. Wonderful, Lashana. Yeah, come down to Orlando, Lashana. It's a short drive. We have people flying from across the country for the boot camp. So, well, with the time we have remaining, I want to throw it out to you. If you have any questions for me, hey, I'm here for a few more minutes. I'm enjoying my coffee. My family is still sleeping. It's 6:27 a.m. here in Sedona, Arizona. So if you are joining us and you have any questions, please throw them out. I'm here for you. Adam Shelton, the pizza pie activity. Yes, that one hit me when I mentally drew it while watching. It does. It's, you know, Adam, it's so interesting. It's such a simple activity. And when I started doing it with clients, I thought, well, it's simple, right? It blows people away when they visually see how their life is out of alignment now versus how they want their aligned life to be. It blows them away, and it's blown me away. Just that simple activity, using that as a barometer. And we do that. I do that at the start with my clients. And from then on, if they feel like they're out of alignment, I have them pull that up and say, all right, what do we have to do to get you toward that pizza pie, right? That pizza pie in terms of that aligned life you want to live. So, yeah. So, Adam, if you are out of alignment, you want help getting back in alignment, shoot me a message. If anyone here watching today, we have a lot of lurkers. If you want help getting in alignment, shoot me a message today. What is a schedule and routine hack for a new full-time entrepreneur? Well, Lashana, one of the 5 pillars of the freedom lifestyle and building a freedom business is outcomes. And so what I mean by that is this. You define a vision for your life, right? Because you can't just define a vision for your business if you're building a freedom business. You have to define a vision for your life and make sure that that business fits into there. Then you define that aligned life that you want, that aligns your relationship, your self-care, and your work. You define those and then you reverse engineer them. You reverse engineer them. That's the most important part. You know, in the old days before GPS and Google Maps, you'd have to take a paper map, put it down, put a pin in the map, and reverse engineer it. So reverse engineering is key. You define your vision, you define your alignment, your aligned life, and you reverse engineer it. You reverse engineer it so that for every year, every month, every week, every day, you know those 3 outcomes you need to achieve every day, every week, every month to move your business forward, to move your life forward, to achieve your outcomes. But when we wake up during the day and say, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? It's disorganized. When you wake up like that, listen, I like to wake up every morning and not have to think, because I have my process laid out, and my process is laid out because I reverse engineered all my outcomes. And so some people say, well, Curt, what should my outcomes be tomorrow? I can't determine that. That's like throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. You've got to define long-term your vision and alignment and reverse engineer it. And then you're guided by what you need to do. I have a client who wanted to fill an event, a work event, 6 months from now. Okay, great. How are you going to get all those people? Well, I'm going to do it through content. Okay, is that going to work? What's your process? Et cetera, et cetera. And when you become process oriented instead of results oriented, it's different. You actually get the results in an easier way, because when you're process oriented, you're bulletproof. The noise, the pandemic, the politics doesn't bother you because you wake up. There's an old Buddhist saying, chop wood, carry water. You wake up and you chop wood, you carry water according to that process that you laid out. And the way you know that process worked is because you've reverse engineered it. So I hope that helps, Lashana. That is key, and that's a wonderful question. Well, everyone, if you are joining the replay of this later today, tomorrow, whenever, over the weekend, still jump in, share your name, your city, your state, your town, where in the world you joined us from, and at least one thing you're grateful for today. Thank you for joining us so much. And please put your questions in, throw your questions in, and I'll answer them throughout the weekend. Lashana, Adam, Larry, to everyone who joined us today in our Facebook group, on LinkedIn, or on YouTube, thank you for spending a portion of your day with us. For those of you in the United States, have a wonderful Independence Day weekend. Remember that freedom is your birthright. Define the life you want. Start living it. Make sure it's a life of alignment. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Curt Mercadante. I help individuals, businesses, and teams become more purposeful, more productive, more prosperous. Thank you for joining us on another Back Porch Session.